What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be working on the Kuwahara again. We're going to be working on the hub. We're going to be overhauling the hub, cleaning the bearings inside of the hub, and greasing the hub. We will be replacing bearings if necessary, but we're going to also relace the wheel. We're not going to show much of that. Today it's all about the hub. So let's get started. The tools that we're going to need on this project are two 17mm wrenches, one 15mm cone wrench. Now, a cone wrench is a special wrench for bicycle hubs to fit on the cones. And then for this project, we're going to need a Suntour free wheel remover. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get this wheel here. We're going to get the free wheel remover. We're going to place it onto the free wheel. Then, since the teeth on this is so shallow, we're going to place a nut on the end. Now, this is to just break the free wheel free. Do not try to remove the free wheel with this nut on there. You will ruin the hub. We're going to use a different adjustable wrench. We're going to break the free wheel free. That was already pretty loose, so we're lucky on that. We're going to remove the free wheel. We're going to place the free wheel onto the towel. Then we're going to place the cone wrench onto the cone. Get the wrench, and we want to, in this case, since we're removing the lock nut, I'm going to put the wrench above the cone wrench. And I'm just going to squeeze it with my hand, and what it does is it breaks the two nuts apart. I'm going to put one wrench on one side and then one wrench on the other and just remove the lock nut. I like to keep the parts in order. I go from left to right with the parts. We're going to get a blue towel. And it's a good idea to wipe as much dirt off as possible before actually removing the nut. All right. So that's fairly clean. I'm going to now remove the cone. I'm having to put a wrench on this other side again because the cone got tightened down a little bit. Now there's several kinds of hubs. This one that we're doing here has a solid axle, and this is a loose bearing hub. If you have a quick release hub, the process that I'm doing works for the most part. However, tightening the bearings is something different. Now I'm going to carefully, since these are loose bearing hubs, I'm going to carefully put a towel underneath to catch any bearings that are going to fall out. I'm going to remove the axle, place it on the towel. I have a magnet here, and we're going to remove the bearings from the smaller hub side. These bearings are going to actually be a different size than on this side. And that's why I keep a towel on there, because I just dropped a bearing. The smaller bearings here are actually 3/16 bearings. These bearings are 1/4 inch bearings. So this little dust cap is actually a little bit crooked, so I'm going to take the opportunity and I'm going to remove it. I'm going to be very careful removing it, and I am going to carefully use a 13mm wrench on this, being very careful not to damage the dust cover, and that gives me a better access and a better view of the internals. I'm going to get the clean towel, or I should say a clean area. I'm just going to put it in there and then just wipe. I'm not planning on using any solvents unless necessary. That cleaned up nicely. Nice and clean. We're going to put this wheel away, and then we're going to clean these bearings. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 bearings on the larger side. Again, I'm not using any solvents unless if necessary, and I normally don't suggest it, but well, you can use some Park Tool degreaser. If you don't have that, you can use WD-40. WD-40 is a good cleaner. However, it's not a very good lubricant. I wouldn't use it on the bike. Most of the time, what I use WD-40 for is removing stickers from frames. So that is looking pretty clean. We're going to make sure that there's 9 bearings. 3, 9, yes. Let's not lose those bearings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 bearings. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You know, I'm not used to seeing 11 bearings in a hub. We'll make sure that it looks right. Okay. You want to keep flipping the rag around to pick a clean side. You don't want to do all this work just to have a bunch of dirt put back inside the hub. and we're going to clean the dust covers. We're cleaning everything that we can for inside the hub. Try to be thorough. Nice and clean. And if you have to get a clean towel, that's okay. Okay. We're going to use Park Tool grease on this, so I'm going to put a generous amount of grease into the hub. We're going to go to the larger side. We're going to get the larger bearing. We're going to place it inside of the grease. I'm keeping my hand underneath it, so if I lose a bearing, I can catch it in my hand. We're going to place the dust cap back into place, and I'm just going to push it in with my finger, and you can see how easy it goes in. So I don't like where it's at, so I am actually going to get a clean screwdriver and just carefully pry it up to where I want it. That's good. Now, the grease holds the bearings in place, so we shouldn't have to worry about any bearings falling out with this Park Tool grease, because it's a nice bicycle grease. It's thick without being too thick. You do not want to put too thick of a grease in these hubs. You want to use a bicycle specific grease. I'm going to get something kind of flat this time. And I'm going to push it in, and then see it hits the flange, and that's in there perfect. I could have done that with the other side. Now this Let's see. It really helps to know which side we were on. It doesn't matter with this hub because it uses the same cones on either side. But pay close attention to how it's taken apart, because it can make a difference. Okay, we've now screwed it in. Bearings already feel pretty good. So now we're going to work on the adjustments on this. So we're going to screw this on. All the way down. We're going to get the 15mm cone wrench and we're going to lock this side down first. But I would like to make sure that the axle is the same width. So I'm taking a measurement. I'm just using a screwdriver. And yes, that's the axle is even. You can measure each side, or you can just put something flush against the lock nut to the end of the axle and then put your fingernail there and then switch the other side. So we're going to make sure this side is locked down good and snug, which it was a little bit loose. So it's a good thing we're making sure it's snug. Then we're going to flip over to this side. We're going to feel the bearings. The bearings are spinning fairly smoothly. It's a hair bit tight. We're going to back it off a little bit, but we're actually going to leave this hub just a hair bit tight because this was apparently hardly used. So I'm going to treat it like a new hub, and the bearings are going to be a little bit tighter. But on a well-used hub, you do not want to do this. You want the bearings to be nice and smooth. So I'm going to hold the lock nut on the opposite side with a wrench. So I'm using 3 tools. And then I'm going to I'm holding this, the one side with the wrench. I'm going to this side with the cone wrench and the other lock wrench. I'm going to tighten them both just a little bit, and then I'm going to feel the bearing. That bearing is too tight. So at this point I'm going to actually hold both of these wrenches in place, and I'm going to actually loosen the cone wrench, which is locking it against this lock nut. And then I'm going to test the bearings. Okay, that's so much better. The bearings feel great. There's just a little bit of resistance on there. I like that because once this bike gets ridden a little bit, I'm not going to be riding it that much, just play around with it a little bit. The bearings will loosen up. So I'm going to actually now tighten the outside lock nut, not allowing the cone to turn. This takes a little bit of practice, this 3-tool method. A lot of people we'll just put the cone wrench and the lock wrench on there and then just tighten it, but it's unpredictable as far as which one's going to turn, if it's going to be the outside lock nut or if it's going to be the cone wrench. So I like to use the wrench on the other side to control that. Alright, that is how you adjust a hub. The bearings, like I said, the bearings feel great. They turn very easily. No, very, very little resistance. And no play. If there was play in this, then you need to tighten both the lock nut and the cone. So you'll need to break them free, turn the cone a little bit more, lock the lock nut back down, and then feel the bearings again. Keep doing it again and again until you get what you're looking for. Let's redo this wheel. Alright, let's get to building. The spokes on this use the same size as on the front, which is 194. Hey guys, what's next? Let's build a wheel. Best it's going to be. We can get started with the next project. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video on this hub overhaul. I did incorporate it into the Kuwahara build. We will be finishing that up here soon. Please leave me a thumbs up and check out my other channel, and check out this one right here, and please subscribe to my channel right here. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one.